Yo, what is up? It is your boy Heather back at it again with a brand new video. And I just hit 4K. You guys are insane. Come on now. You guys got me to 4K in like 5 months? That is dummy insane. I just want to say truly thank you to all of you guys who have helped me along this journey, who, subscribed, left comments, or, even left a like on the video to continue the parts. Thank you guys so much for helping me reach this amazing milestone that is 4K. And I hope that you guys will continue to support me as I'm going to go for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to just keep going. You already know your boy Zether is slowly taking over the, the what if community. And, I'm slowly getting more popularity. But that being said, I hope you guys enjoy this amazing video that is gonna be what if Deku had the spear Chastiefol. As you guys can see from the title, this is actually going to be a collab with my boy Shota aizawa. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know who he is, and that being said, I don't really want to annoy you guys with all of this jibber jabber since it's already been about a minute, and pretty sure you guys don't really want to hear me talk about how great it is hitting 4K. So I'm gonna spare you guys that boringness and just upload another video on that. But that being said, let's go ahead and get into this amazing video, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so in this version of events, Deku is actually going to be the Fairy King. How's this gonna work? Stick around to find out. So Deku's actually gonna be the Fairy King in this version, after his last predecessor had fallen, which is actually not going to be king. Let's just say that it's just some random fairy who, actually died of natural causes, age. And at this point, Deku's actually been the Fairy King for about 2,000 years. He's been alive for that long, and, he's seen the humans evolve over time. After living for 2,000 years, you tend to get pretty bored, I'm guessing, since, he may have a long life, but he is getting older and getting even more bored as the years go by. So, one day, Deku just decides that, he wants to go explore and, check out the humans for himself. He wants to see what the world is like and what it has to offer other than his fairy force. So he turns to his sister Elaine, and that's right, Elaine is actually going to be in this version, as well as Hellbrum. I'm adding 2 characters from the 7 Deadly Sins, and that is it. No more, no less. But that being said, let's go ahead and get right back into it. So Deku actually tells his sister that she should actually take care of it. He just wants to go explore it for a little bit, and maybe once he's done, she can give it a try and go explore the world for herself, since he knows that she must also be bored. But he wants to go explore. He wants to see what the world has to offer, and he wants to see what the humans are really like. They don't seem like too bad of people, and from what he can see, they've definitely evolved. So Deku actually ends up having his sister help, who, decides that, it's cool. She'll just watch over the Fairy King for us, as long as he doesn't take that long. He promises that he'll take 5 years tops, but any more than that, and she can go ahead and kill him. As she's like, right, damn right I would. As Deku would say, okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and go off. As she wishes him good luck. As Deku would say that, same to you. As he would then proceed to just leave the forest and go on and exploring. He would just go out and wander the world, as Deku would want to get to know the humans, see if they're bad, see if they're good, see what they're really like. So Deku would proceed to travel around the world for about a week, and after about that much time, he would essentially land around Japan, where the My Hero Academia story takes place. So Deku would just be wandering around, and after about a week, Deku would have actually found out about what quirks are, seeing some random civilians shoot water from their fingers, as Deku would ask if that's like magic or something, as they would tell him that no, it's just a quirk. As Deku would say, what's a quirk? As they would say, I mean, you're flying, so I'm guessing you have a flight quirk. As Deku would say, no, it's not a quirk. As, they would explain to him what quirks are, as Deku would just be sitting there conversating, as he's next to a bank that out of nowhere just has an explosion go off, as the sludge villain is running away with the wads of cash like in the original. And after seeing that, Deku would clearly see the scared faces on everybody, as he was decide that he's actually going to step in, King does have a heroic nature, or sorry, Deku has a heroic nature. what should I call him? Okay, so guys, for you guys not to get confused, I'm gonna be keeping the name Deku. I'm just gonna be using Deku, Izuku. You know, he's not gonna actually be called Midoriya, and also King. I'm gonna be using those names. So that being said, those are really what we're gonna go with in this series. So Deku, after seeing the sludge villain and seeing the scared faces on everybody, seeing like, wow, like villains are just getting crazy, as Deku would hear the word villain and decide that, you know, he's gonna go ahead and take care of that. So Deku would fly on over to him and move Spirit Spear to go over there, and he would then use Spirit Spear, first configuration, petrification, as he would then proceed to petrify the sludge villain, as the sludge villain is just like, what? What is this? As Deku would just petrify the sludge villain as he turns into stone and just stops moving. As this is happening, All Might would have been standing by, as he's like, what? As All Might just sees what he had done, as well as some other heroes who were just sitting there around, as they're like, hey, you know quirk usage isn't allowed without a hero license. As All Might would buff up and go approach him, as he would then say, no, it's actually quite alright. He actually stopped me from having to, go capture this sludge villain myself. As the rest of the heroes would look towards All Might and say, huh? But All Might, as he would say, it's alright, I'll give the boy a talking. As they would say, oh, okay. As, All Might would proceed to walk up to Deku as he asked him what that was. As Deku would say, oh, it's just, his Spirit Spear. As, All Might would say, what's a Spirit Spear? As Deku would then proceed to explain that, he has the Spirit Spears, it's just his powers. As, All Might would say, oh, it's your quirk. As Deku would say, no, I'm the Fairy King. As, All Might would be like, huh? Fairy? Fairy King. As he would then begin to laugh as he's like, you're funny, kid. As Deku would say, no, I'm being serious. As All Might would then say, so then, if you're a fairy, then where are your wings? As Deku would say, they're right here. As he would take his sweater off and show him some tiny little wings. As All Might would then proceed to start laughing and say, that's pretty funny. As, Deku would be like, hey, don't mock me. As he would say, I'll turn you to stone too. As All Might would say, what? You're not gonna do that to me. I'm the #1 hero. As Deku would say, what is that? As, All Might would then, realize that this kid is not lying. He's actually the Fairy King. And he would then decide, you know what, kid? Come with me. As Deku would say, not a kid. I'm probably older than you. As, Deku would proceed to tell All Might that he's essentially, even older than All Might. He would tell him that he's actually 2,000 years old, and All Might would be like, he would just, what? You're 2,000 years old? What the hell? As, Deku was just like, yeah, I mean, kind of, been around for a while. As All Might would say, that's insane. So, All Might would decide that, you know what, he took a pretty cool liking to this kid, and he wants to see if maybe he can be a successor. As he looks at his body, but he decides that, maybe he could help him out of this. So, this is actually going to be around the 10-month mark, and Deku's actually going to be around until, have some pretty cool time to spend. So, during this time, All Might will actually take him home, as, Deku would say, oh, this is rather interesting. You humans have evolved very well. As All Might would say, you humans, as Deku would say, yeah, I've seen a little bit of you guys, as you guys went from warring to, weapons and stuff like that, and now you guys seem to be going along pretty fine. You guys seem pretty peaceful. As All Might would say, oh, as he rubs his head and says, yeah, that was a long time ago. As King then says, oh, yeah, King. I can say King, Deku, Zuko. Anyways, as King would then say, well, how about, as he then turns into, his human form, as All Might is just like, what? What's going on? As Deku would say, do I not look like a human? As All Might would then be like, I'm gonna need you to transform back if you're gonna be staying with me. As he then takes another sip of water and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna need you to go back. As, Deku would be like, okay, understood. As Deku would proceed to transform back into his normal form, as he would say, why not? I mean, that form is pretty cool and funny to transform into. As All Might would say, kid, you look weird. As Deku would say, okay, point taken. As, you know, All Might would then proceed to try to train Deku over the next 10 months that they're going to have. But it becomes incredibly, you know, obvious that Deku just does not see the need or even wants to train. All Might would then proceed to expend the next 2 months trying to train Deku and get him ready for One For All, but Deku just doesn't see the point to inheriting his quirk or anything like that. And actually, during this time, All Might would have actually been healed a little bit, since, as you guys know, King has the ability to, you know, make injuries worse or heal them. So King will just decide, or King or Deku will actually just decide to heal the wound and, you know, fix it as much as possible, as he then gets him to almost 100%, about 90%, I guess you could say, as All Might in this version of events is actually going to be a little more healed. He's still going to be looking for a successor, however, since, you know, he's still, you know, just decided that that's what he was going to do, so he does that. So for the next 8 months, you know, All Might then proceeds to search for a successor, and in the end ends up choosing, you know, Mirio. So during this next couple of time, Deku actually ends up meeting Principal Nezu and, you know, ends up actually studying with him to catch up with everything that the humans have done and, you know, everything that, you know, he's missed over this amount of time. Deku actually thinks that this is pretty interesting, but, you know, he sees that there's actually no point to this. So Principal Nezu and Deku just kind of clash and get along at the same time, since, you know, Principal Nezu is extremely smart, but Deku defies all logic. He's been alive for thousands of years and he has these incredible, you know, fairy powers apparently, and he's the king just out here. As Principal Nezu would ask him why he's out here, as Deku would say that, you know, during the time that he's been around, he's gotten bored. I mean, what would he do if he lived for 2,000 years? As Principal Nezu would very quickly understand where Deku's coming from. So he would actually decide to tell Deku that, you know, he's going to help him catch up so that he can go ahead and get into UA. So for the next, let's say 8 months. For the next 8 months, Deku was basically just going to be, you know, learning about human things. And during this time, Deku would have just been hanging out and, you know, being with, you know, being with, you know, All Might, just, you know, hanging around, since he's just been flying around with All Might as he does some of his hero work. On one particular day, however, Deku would have just been flying around. This would be around the 8-month mark, as Deku would just kind of be hella bored, just floating around in his pillow, as out of nowhere, Deku would proceed to see a huge lady just beating on a villain, as this would be Mount Lady. And Deku would then say, "Oh, hubba bubba, come here, you big..." I dare not say the next word because I don't want to, you know, get in trouble with YT. So for the next part, you know, we're just going to have Deku pretty much just drooling from the mouth as he sees Mount Lady in her giant form, as we all know King likes his big bitches. So after this, Deku would proceed to fly on over to her, you know, leaving All Might by himself as he finishes up the villain that he was handling, as he then proceeds to ask her, you know, what her name is, as she tells him that her name is, you know, Mount Lady. He should know that, as Deku would say, what's up, Mount Lady? As she would then be like, "Kid, you're messing with me." As Deku would proceed to just try to put the moves on her, you know, he would just try to get at her, as, you know, she would proceed to be like, "Not happening, kid." So Deku would actually be pretty kind of disappointed, but, you know, he'd be let down kind of easy, I guess you could say. She would proceed to tell him that, yeah, that's sorry, but it's just not gonna happen. As Deku would say that, you know what, it doesn't matter. He's gonna keep trying, and regardless, he's gonna get her someday. So during this time, we're gonna go ahead and cut on over to the day of the UA entrance exams. During this time, Deku would basically pull up to the UA, as he doesn't actually end up meeting Uraraka this time, or even, you know, being loud. So Ida doesn't even take any interest in Deku or even call him out. So everything just goes by pretty easy, except for the mental exam, as Deku would actually pass, but barely pass. So afterwards, they would actually move on to the physical portion, as Deku was just kind of laying down on his pillow as he's just flying in the air. As Ida would say, "Hey, shouldn't you be preparing for the thing?" As Deku would say, "Yeah, I thought about that, but, you know, it's gonna be a walk in the park anyways." As Ida would say, "Well, I mean, if you don't want to get into UA, that's not going to bother me." As he would then walk over to the front, as, you know, he just leaves Deku alone. So President Mike would then proceed to say, there are no countdowns in a real battle. Go, go, go. As, Deku would proceed to just, fly in there slowly as he then says, spear, 5th configuration. As he then says, increase. As we all know what happens after this. Deku would proceed to turn Chastiefol into an army of small kunai-like weapons as they would all rush at different, robots, just starting to destroy them from every angle as Deku would just proceed to maneuver them all over the place, just completing to, destroy them and just start devouring the freaking monsters, I guess you could say. Or not monsters, but robots, But after a while, Deku would have actually ended up racking up about 349 points of robot points alone. And after that's up, it would have been about 5 minutes. So after that, Uraraka, would have happened to her in canon. As soon as a big robot comes in, Deku would see that. As he then sees it and says, this is getting quite interesting. Didn't think you'd have such a large beast here. As or he would then see Uraraka and he'd be like, oh, guess I gotta save her. As he would then send the spears over to the giant robot to just destroy it and dismantle it. As Deku would fly on over to Uraraka, he then ask her if she's cool to walk, and she would say, no. So Deku would then proceed to just, be like, okay, well, I can't exactly carry you. So she would say, what? And Deku would just say, here, how about this? As he then lands on the floor and, finally starts walking for once. As, Deku would proceed to be like, what is this? Legs? Just kidding. But, Deku would just basically walk her over to the recovery girl. And she would say, thank you. As Deku would say, yeah, it was no problem. Then Deku would nonchalantly turn his spears back into the pillow and just proceed to fly away as he would go on over to All Might's house. He then just passes out for the next week. For the next week, All Might would be pretty busy doing paperwork and, becoming a teacher for UA. So we got a pretty boring week going by where Deku just kind of, trains with the spear and, just messes around with it, seeing that maybe he should, instead of training his body, just kind of train his spear and maybe up his abilities a little bit, if anything. So Deku just kind of does that. And we're going to go ahead and skip to the first day of UA, where Deku actually ends up waking up pretty early. And he actually arrives to UA pretty early, if I do say so. So he would actually end up arriving at UA, like 1 hour before everybody, as he would just be sitting there on his pillow sleeping, minding his own business. As about 1 hour later, Ida would arrive there thinking that he was actually going to be the first student, but Deku was just there. He's just passed out, as Aizawa was also just passed out on the floor, but nobody can actually see him at this point. So Deku just kind of sits there and sleeps as Ida goes up to him and says, hey, you, it's not nice to be sleeping. You should be getting ready for UA. As Deku would just kind of ignore him. As, Ida would be like, hey, I'm talking to you. As Uraraka would then walk up in there, as it's been about 5 minutes since then. And she would say, hey, it's you. As Deku would say, huh? As he would then say, oh, yeah, it was no problem. I mean, I'm a hero, right? As she would say, oh, yeah. So at this point, Aizawa would then proceed to wake up and say, if you're here to make friends, I suggest you get out of here. As Deku would then say, he would then just lay back down. As, Aizawa was just like, kid, wake up. As Deku would say, I got it. As we all know that the king is pretty lazy. So, after this, Deku would proceed to just walk over to the changing room. As he then puts on that weird outfit. As he then just, puts it on without any second thought, thinking that, it's not really that big of a deal. So, Deku would proceed to put on the, UA uniform, as everybody would actually head outside. And this is when everybody would proceed to get pretty, have everything essentially go to canon. Deku would actually have the ball thrown at him, as, Deku would say, oh, so I just gotta make it go as far as possible. As, Aizawa would then say, yeah, go for it. As Deku would throw the ball up into the air and say, spear, 5th configuration, increase. As he would have one of his spears stab into the ball, as it then flies off away, as far as anybody can see. As, it would shoot off pretty far, getting about 300, meters. As, Deku would feel pretty good. As afterwards, they would have the rest of the test with Bakugo being like, oh, that was, not bad. It's actually kind of cool. So, on the rest of the test, Deku would actually not do very well. The physical portion would have actually kicked his ass, and he would have actually failed most of them, except for the high jump. And the race, since in those versions you could have just flown over as well as, just flown at top speed to just blitz the race. So afterwards we just got Deku just kind of relaxing as everybody's just doing everything that they are. Everybody's just confused, not knowing if Deku is strong or weak, because his body is physically weak, but his abilities make up for it way more than his weakness. So everybody's just like, it's kind of just write him off as, being right in the middle. So, that day it pretty much ends, and Deku just goes back to All Might as he then just passes out. As All Might arrives later and says, hey kid, saw what you did. Pretty impressive. As Deku would say, oh yeah, it was cool. As, All Might would then walk out and just be like, I understand, as he would, basically wake up the very next day for, some school. As, Deku would actually proceed to just, go to his very first day of school, where everything is honestly kind of boring. Deku kind of just passed out in a couple of the classes and didn't really pay attention, as, everything would be extremely boring up until the end, where All Might busts in through the door saying that he is here, as he would begin to tell them all about the heroes versus villains with, Uraraka and Deku actually getting paired together, and Deku actually having the same costume that King wears in the 7 Deadly Sins, just to make everything simple. So that would essentially be Deku's hero costume. So afterwards we're going to go ahead and get into the teams. Like I said, Deku Uraraka versus Bakugo and Ida. In this version of events, Bakugo is actually not going to have that grudge towards Deku, so there's not going to be any reason for him to be a dickhead to him. So Deku is kind of just going to be chilling, nothing really too much to care for, as, Bakugo is just like, So in this version of events, he actually ends up, just staying with Ida, and things go by very, very quickly. So in this version of events, this thing is a stomp, since in this version, as soon as everything starts, Deku just says, Spear, first configuration, Chastiefol, as, it would just take its normal spear form, as Deku would just have it fly through the airs. He then has it chase Ida around inside of the building, as Ida's just like, what the? As Deku's just flying outside through the window, just watching everything that happens, as Ida's dodging and dodging and dodging, but it ends up hitting him at last, as Ida then gets flown back, and one of his propulsors actually, gets damaged a little bit, as, Bakugo would then say, ugh, you damn bastard, come out and fight, as Deku would say, Spear, second configuration, Guardian, as the giant bear would just appear and begin to, attack Bakugo with its 4 arms, as Bakugo would think that it's going to be pretty easy since he can just blow it up, but when he tries to, it would just use its raw physical strength to take down, Bakugo, as, he takes him down pretty easily. So afterwards, we got Deku essentially have taken it out. Bakugo, as well as Ida and Uraraka, just, rushes in there and touches the bomb, as Deku would say, pretty good, it's pretty easy, but, maybe next time I can get some harder opponents. As Bakugo hears that and says, damn bastard, as he would then get up and rush at Deku with an explosion, as Deku would then say, Spear, 8th configuration, Pollen Garden, as the huge barrier would appear around Deku, as he would then say, what were you gonna do to me? As Bakugo would just try to damage Deku, but he simply can't. So Bakugo would just get tired and just leave, as he's just grunting, thinking that, damn it, he'll just get him next time, and the next time he gets. So Deku would just proceed to be like, that kid is pretty annoying, as, he would then proceed to just be like, well, time to go off, as Deku would proceed to essentially just go back home like he always does and just pass out. So yeah, Deku would actually, get praised, as, everything just happens, and, Deku and them just begin to talk, as, after that performance that Deku had today, Deku's actually awake, just watching some TV, as All Might then arrives home and he says, hey, that was pretty impressive. As Deku then says, yeah, it was nothing too crazy. As Deku would then go towards, the cabinets, as he grabs a bottle of booze and begins to pour it, as All Might says, wait, you're too. As he then remembers that he's actually old enough to drink. I mean, he's 50, or I couldn't even tell you guys how many times old enough to drink. So All Might would then proceed to say, I mean, if he's gonna drink, then I might as well drink with him. As All Might would then proceed to pour a glass for himself, as they would proceed to get wasted. Deku cannot handle any booze, and All Might and Deku would just get drunk as they're just, talking in gibberish, as, Deku and All Might are just talking and messing around, having a pretty fun day, as Deku actually gets a little closer to All Might. So that's essentially how we're going to be ending that day. And after that, 1 week of boring school goes by as, Deku just proceeds to use that time to get to know the rest of the classmates, such as Ida, Bakugo, Kaminari, the rest of them, just making a couple of friends. And his main friend group was actually Ida and Uraraka, surprisingly. Sorry for that. Surprisingly enough, it's Ida and Uraraka. Sorry, not Bakugo. But yeah, that being said, that's his pretty much friend group, as it's almost stays the same as it would in canon, except Deku has a bit of a different personality in this version. So this is when they would all proceed to get on the bus after they're all told that they're going to be having the USJ, as Deku just smiles thinking that this is going to be pretty cool. I mean, he's going to get to just mess around and practice rescuing people to see if he could see how far he can come, and how good he is at rescuing things. As Deku's had about 2,000 years of practice in terms of rescuing people, so this is going to be a walk in the park for him. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. So everything pretty much goes by normal up until here the Hero 13 gives her speech. Everything goes pretty normal up until Kurogiri would then proceed to teleport in front of them, saying that All Might is not here, no matter, as he would then proceed to teleport everybody away, with Deku not really paying attention, as Deku would not have actually been paying attention to anything, as he was just teleported away with his pillow, as he then falls, as he then catches himself and says, that's kind of weird, as Deku would then just land on the boat, as he would then say, what's going on, as Asui would land with Mineta. She says, what do we do, as Deku would then say, I don't really know, as Deku would then proceed to just say, what would be very useful in this situation, as Deku would then proceed to just say, 5th configuration, increase, as he has all of the kunais just rush at every single one of the villains, taking them out quickly and swiftly in the process, as they then all just basically proceed to fly away back to the land, as Asui and Mineta proceed to leave, as Deku sees that his teacher Aizawa was actually getting hurt by some of the villains, as Deku would proceed to actually rush in there and use Spear Sphere, 1st configuration, Chastiefol, and I don't know if even that's how you say it, but I'm pretty sure it is. I mean, what else do you say? As Spear Spear would just come in and start massacring the rest of the villains, taking them out pretty quickly, as Deku aims his fingers, just kind of nonchalantly just chilling there, as afterwards Aizawa would just be pretty banged up, as this is when, oh wait, no, he actually wouldn't be banged up. No, sorry, he wouldn't. He would actually be fine in this version. As Shigaraki seeing this kid just do that with this one thing as he's just flying, he would say, Nomu, kill that kid. As the Nomu would then rush in to try to punch Deku, as Deku would say, 2nd configuration, Guardian. As the Guardian would appear right beside him as he stops the mighty blow from the Nomu, as he then tanks it. And then, Deku would then proceed to say, it's not nice to try to catch somebody off guard. As then, we got Deku using 1st configuration to attack the Nomu, as it doesn't really do much. So Deku then says, disaster! As he then proceeds to open all of the wounds that the Nomu had already gotten from the Spear's wounds. Since it was it did have shock absorption and regeneration, but, Deku does have disaster. As he would then make the wounds become even more fatal, as Deku would have actually struck it in the brain, and that, after becoming even more fatal, would actually end up killing the Nomu. As, as Deku thinks he killed it, but right as he lets his guard down, the Nomu would then proceed to rush at Deku, as Deku then barely is able to get this word as he says, petrification! As he would then petrify the thing is, Deku was just like, that was close. He would say, 3rd configuration, fossilization, as, that would happen. And he would continue to, pretty much kill the Nomu pretty much, as he then says 1st form, and he destroys the stone, as the Nomu would then proceed to die. As after Shigaraki sees this, he would decide that it would not be the smartest move to stay around and, find out what happens. So, Shigaraki and Kurogiri actually end up dipping right after that because they don't know if they could actually beat this kid since Deku seems very strong. So, after that, Deku was just like, pretty easy. As Alma would then burst in as Ida would have called him and said, I am here? As he would then look around and see Deku just sitting there nonchalantly flying around, helping anybody else who had to deal with some extra, villains. As then, we have the normal cleanup that happens in canon, except this time, everything is, pretty simple as there's not really any complications. So in this version of events, everything just goes by pretty easily. So, afterwards, Deku was just kind of chilling, and then we're going to go ahead and have that 1 week break that we have, as, not going to lie, Deku would proceed to actually sleep through most of it. Up until one day, Alma says that he's going to go out on patrol, as Deku would say, wait, could we run into that Mount Lady? As, Alma would then say, I mean, maybe if, there's some crime. As Deku would say, okay, I'm ready, let's go. As he would then join Alma just because he wants to see Mount Lady. As, they would be on patrol. As out of nowhere, they would see her as Deku would fly over there and immediately start trying to flirt with her. As, she's just like, kid, can you, stop? As, Deku would say, come on. As there's a villain that Mount Lady couldn't get. As Deku would say, First configuration, spear. As he would then have the spear go and take down the villain as quickly as possible. As he's just staring at, Mount Lady. As she's like, thanks, kid, for the help. As she would say, but like I said last time, I'm still not interested. As Deku would say, I understand. So Deku would then proceed to be like, well, see you around. As he would say, I'm gonna get you someday. As she would say, I doubt it. As she is so wrong. So then, we have All Might appearing as he says, kid, you left me alone. What the hell? As Deku then says, I'm not a kid. As All Might would say, oh, yeah, sorry. As Deku would then proceed to just, stay being persistent with Mount Lady, promising that, he's going to get her someday. As after that, we're going to go ahead and return to school to the day where Aizawa actually informs the group of the UA Sports Festival, telling them all of what's going to happen. As everybody would return to school, as Aizawa would inform them all and tell them that they have 2 days to get ready. As Deku would honestly be extremely lazy and just sleep through the 2 days, not really training or doing anything. So, when Deku would arrive, Midnight would actually tell him that he's going to be giving the speech. As Deku would say, oh, okay. As he would then walk up there and just give a pretty lame speech, not going to lie. I mean, even though he's a king, he's not that great of a king. So, Deku would give a pretty weird speech. As afterwards, the crowd is silent. As Deku would then say, he was losing them as he says, spear, 5th configuration, as he has the kunai just fly into the air and create something that says plus ultra, as everybody in the crowd just finally starts cheering, as Deku would then proceed to walk off smiling that, he kind of did it right. As afterwards, Midnight would announce that they're actually going to be taking part in a race, as Deku would proceed to go through it with ease, as he just proceeds to fly through it, getting first place with, the other rest of the placings being pretty much just canon. As then we're going to go ahead and have the cavalry battlist. Things are actually going to go way different in this version. Deku's actually going to use 2nd configuration, Guardian. As, Deku would then proceed to have him summon us. He would ask Midnight if he could be his teammate. As she would say she doesn't see why not. As, Deku would ask Araka if she wants to be on the team. As Mei Hatsume would appear and say that she wants to be on the team with the number 1. As, they would all just join up as a team like in the original canon, except no Tokiyami since he's going to be replaced by Guardian. So, we would pretty much just have a one-sided stomp with Deku just riding on Guardian, and whenever that doesn't work, he would just create his pillow and have them all fly up into the air. And with that being said, cue the music. A whole new world! As they would proceed to essentially just start flying into the air, as, nobody can actually challenge them. Todoroki can't reach them at that altitude, and the rest of them are kind of just chilling there for the entirety of the UA Sports Festival cavalry battle. So, we're going to go ahead and skip right on over to the battles. In this version, Ojiro would have still, said that he's going to be kind of weary of that Shinso kid, as Deku would actually heed his warning this time, and because King has the ability to read minds, he would actually go ahead and take advantage of this ability, as he would read Shinso's mind, as Shinso's just thinking that he's gonna make this kid talk and it'll be over right after that, as Deku would decide that he's not gonna give this boy the satisfaction of talking, as he would take into account that he has mind control, as that's gonna be pretty useful later, and you'll see why. So Deku would proceed to just, be chilling, as, he's just sitting there as he says, let's get this over with, as Deku then says, Spear Sphere, which one should I use now? I have a lot of options, as he would say, Spear Sphere, 4th configuration, Sunflower, as he would then turn Chastiefol into a giant plant, as it would absorb sunlight, and it would shoot that blast straight at Shinso, as it would send Shinso flying straight out of the ring, as Shinso would have been taken out pretty quickly, as Deku would then fly on over to him and say, hey, are you okay? As Shinso would say, you're blessed with your quirks, as Deku would say, oh, it's not a quirk, I'm a fairy, as Shinso would be like, you're what? As Deku would say, yeah, I'm a fairy, as Shinso would be like, oh, okay then. As he would just walk off and be like, that's weird. As he would say, I'll have another chance next year. As that happens. So we're gonna go ahead and just go on to the next battle. This being Deku versus Todoroki. In this version, Todoroki actually tries to be a dick to Deku, or even intimidate him by going up to him and declaring war on Deku, saying that Deku was actually one of the highest, targets that he's gonna have to fight, as Deku kind of just sleeps through the entirety of, Todoroki declaring a war. Todoroki gets pretty irritating, and, Deku just kind of gets annoyed by Todoroki's stupid remarks as he sees it, as soon as the match starts, Deku just decides that he's gonna give this kid a taste of his own medicine, as Todoroki would shoot a giant iceberg at him, as Deku would then proceed to fly into the air and say, 1st configuration, Spear, as he would then have the spear just go around and bliss, Todoroki, giving him minor cuts, as he would then say, status promotion, as he would then have the scratches and stuff turn into lethal wounds, as Todoroki would then fall onto the ground and he would then lose a lot of blood, as Deku would then seal all of the injuries back up, as Deku would then say, and that's for annoying me when I was sleeping, as Todoroki would then have lost pretty easily, as everybody saw what Deku did and was extremely impressed. All Might being like, this kid could kill people with just one scratch. That's not fair, as that would proceed to happen, as Deku would end up winning, and we're gonna go ahead and move on to Deku versus Bakugo. This match is going to go not very well. Bakugo would try to use his howitzer impact, as Deku would just fly out of the way, as he would then just be dodging Bakugo, just playing around with him, as he's viewing this battle as kind of fun, as Bakugo tries launching explosions at him, but every time he does, he would just use his as he would just use 8th configuration, Pollen Garden, as he creates the barrier around himself and just protects himself, as afterwards, Deku would say that he's done playing these games, as he would then say, 5th configuration, Increase, as he would then create the kunais that I'll just go to, gather around Bakugo as if they were piranhas, and just, basically swim around him, as, Bakugo is just like, I'm not gonna, as Deku would then say, step off the ring already, as Bakugo would then, swallow his pride and just walk off, as Deku would then say, that's good, as he would then, lay down on his pillow and say, I won, what's my reward, as, everybody would be like, what do we do, as, King would then just proceed to laugh, as he would then say, I don't really need much, as, King would then proceed to walk off, as he would then proceed to get the golden medal, and Bakugo would get the silver, as Todoroki would get the 3rd. Bakugo still being pretty angry that he ended up losing, but, he, really already gotten and set to terms that Deku's already stronger than him, and, there was really nothing that he could do about it. So, Bakugo just kind of has to accept it in this version, and with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and slide everything over to Shota. He's actually going to be starting you guys right off when they arrive back to class, but with that being said, I'm going to be coming back later. Peace.
All right. I'm here to continue off from where he left off. By the way, I'll introduce myself a little bit. I'm Aizawa. I'm here to help him out with his 4K special, because of course he can't do it without me. But you know, yeah, I'll just get into the what if. I have a channel if you want to check it out. Thank you. Okay, so where he left me off, the sports festival had just ended and they were getting back into class. And now Aizawa is explaining that they have internships. Everybody's, excited for internships. And of course, Deku, he is well, not just internships, but also hero names. So, first off, he's just like, what's this, internship? What's it about? Basically, Aizawa then explains, the internship is where teachers will pick you up and you'll do hero work with them. And, basically just training on hero work and stuff like that. Right, but, they can't really do too much hero work because they don't have a license. Or at least provisional licenses. But, Deku's like, alright, that sounds fine enough. He explains, everybody got their fair share of, invites to internships. Deku, of course, got a lot because I'm pretty sure he won. I didn't get explained that. I'm pretty sure he won, though. So he got a lot of internships, especially since, Spear Chastiefol seems pretty useful to most heroes. Also, Midnight comes in. She's like, we're going to be picking names, guys, So what's your hero name's going to be? So, everybody puts in their hero name. Bakugo still does Stupid King Explosion Murder, whatever the fuck. Deku then walks up and he's like, he writes down King, and he just puts it down there, and they're like, King, that's it? He's like, he puts King, the fairy hero, then he puts it down. And then they're all like, okay, I guess, they're a bit confused by it, like, why he does font that he's a king, I'm pretty sure. So they're just like, alright, makes sense. Deku checks, his internship list, and he's like, no, don't know that guy, don't know that guy, don't know that guy, don't know him, don't know her, don't know him. He's like, he sees one for Gran Torino, and he's like, who the fuck? And then he throws that. After that, he sees one from Mount Lady, and he's like, oh hell yeah. And, he's like, this one. I thought it was like, are you sure? You got a lot of top heroes. You even got Endeavor, which, surprise Todoroki, of course, because, Endeavor only picks fire heroes, but that's that. And Deku's like, yeah, I'm sure. I know what I want. I was like, okay, fine, After that, time skip a bit to when they go to the internships, Deku walks in there, and he's surprised to see someone. If you guys know by canon, Mineta is there. And Deku's like, what the fuck are you doing here? Mineta's like, I could ask you the same. He has that little list. I could ask you the same. Deku's like, I came here for an internship. Mineta's like, same. So, Deku realizes, because he knows Mineta. He knows what Mineta's about, and he's not about to let Mineta do shit. He's like, yeah. He holds the spear to Mineta. He's like, yeah, try anything. That's a wrap. He just goes in there. Basically, he flies in there, and Mount Lady was aware that he accepted her internship. She mostly got him just because, it would look good for a pro hero if the #1 person chose their internship. It looked very good for her, so of course she would send him an internship because she knew that he would say okay. Basically, Deku's like, yo, what's up? She's like, just sweep the floors. Basically, he's like, alrighty then. He gets to it. Ah, crap. This is unprofessional. There we go. But basically, he does what she says because Deku's just like that. He just sticked his spear to the end of the broom and then just started making it sweep the floors. After that, basically, Deku was just talking to her while sweeping the floors, which, you know, eventually annoyed her to the point where she's just like, you know what, let's go out for patrol. And, you know, they go out for patrol. They're just walking around, you know, fixing up little crimes and stuff like that. Just getting a good feel out for it. And we'll say, for plot's sake, they end up in Hosu City. After a while, the Nomu start attacking. And, you know, Deku's like, oh, what the fuck? So the mountain lady, she goes out to go help some people. She's like, go either, you know, help civilians out or handle some Nomus. I'm pretty sure you can handle that. You know, then he goes like, okay, and then she just goes off. He does 5th configuration, makes like multiple fucking small spears and starts just slaughtering Nomu left and right while also helping people out. Like, you know, he's catching rubble, killing Nomu. It's crazy. And then, you know, he hears something in the alleyway, and then he looks down there and he sees, you know, he sees Stain, well, what he knows is Stain at least, or thinks is someone, stabbing into someone's back. And, you know, he's like, who the hell? So, of course, Deku, trying to be a hero, throws the fucking spear at him just to hit the sword out of his hand. Then Stain catches it with, you know, the tip of his eye. And, you know, basically, Stain moves his fucking sword out of the way, and he's like, what the hell is that? You know, and he sees Deku, who's like, you know, pretty small, just chilling out there, floating a little bit, and like, with his fingers pointing at him. And, you know, basically Stain's like, who the hell is this kid? And then he remembers that he saw Deku in the sports tournament, yeah. So, you know, Stain's like, you better get out of here, brat. You're not a hero yet. You can still change. Deku's like, first off, brat, excuse me? He feels a bit disrespected. And then he's like, second off, I see you stabbing someone and I see another guy practically dead in the other corner. So, yeah, I'm not doing that. Stain, you know, he's like, fine then, kid. He rushes Deku. He goes, you know, swinging his blade and shit like a crazy maniac. Deku's like mostly dodging it by like floating back. And then he brings Spear Chastiefol back. And, you know, like Stain, I'm gonna give Stain the benefit of the doubt here, alright? He can hear the spear coming at him because it's like cutting through wind and shit, basically. So he moves out of the way. Deku just catches the spear and starts swinging it at Stain. He's like, I've never fought someone with an actual sword. Like, that's what he's thinking. So he's like, I'll fight them hand to hand, see how it goes. And, you know, Deku using hand to hand right now. He's kind of getting folded by Stain, not gonna lie. Stain, so then Deku's like, he's like, 4th configuration, Guardian. You know, basically, like, you know, his shield, his spear turns into the big bear thing, and it rushes Stain and punches the hell out of him. Stain hits the wall because that shit hurt. He hits the wall, he's down, he's getting up, and then after that, the fucking bear stomps on his back, and just Stain knocked the fuck out, not even gonna cap. So, you know, Deku tries to pick up Ida. That doesn't work out because, you know, he's not strong like that. Deku's like, so he just makes his bear pick all 3 of them up. And he starts walking out, right? And, you know, Endeavor sees him and he's like, what the hell? And Nomu grabs Deku, but because Guardian is holding Stain and Ida and Native, what's it called? He can't, like, you know, kill the Nomu. So basically, Endeavor throws the fire javelin, kills the Nomu. Deku, you know, catches himself because he can float. And Deku's like, damn, I almost got caught lacking there. And, you know, Endeavor's like, what the hell is a hero, you know, what the hell, like, a brat doing out here? He's like, I'm doing hero work, I just saved these 2 from him. You know, he points at Stain, and Endeavor's like, is that hero killer Stain? You know, Todoroki runs in behind Endeavor because he was helping out some civilians. Todoroki's like, what the hell? Midoriya or Izuku or whatever the hell he calls him. You know, Deku's like, yo. He throws, what's it called? He gives Stain to Endeavor, and he's like, yeah, you can deal with that, I guess. I gotta go catch up with someone. So, you know, he flies off. with Ida, and he also gives him Ida and Native to give to the hospital, but he flies off to find Mount Lady, and he starts helping her out as well. And then after that, we're gonna do a time skip a little bit. Deku doesn't really have to go to the hospital, because, you know, Stain didn't hurt him, like, at all. Maybe, like, made him tired a bit. So, you know, Deku's just sitting down, and then the police officer dog comes in, and he's like, you know, he knocks on the door, and then Midnight's like, go open it. Deku's like, alright. Or at least he tells, or she tells Mineta to open it, because he didn't do shit during the hero attack. Mineta's like, okay, and, you know, he goes, opens the door. Basically, you know, the dog's like, may I come in? You know, he shows his badge. Mineta lets him in, because, you know, you let the police in when you're a hero, because they don't need a warrant for Hero's place. Or at least I think. But, you know, he walks in there. He basically tells Mount Lady that, hey, your, what's it called? Your intern here fought Stain, and he doesn't have a license. It's very illegal. And then Deku's like, you know, okay, but I stopped him, didn't I? Like, you know, because he's just chilling there. And then he's like, well, we have rules, and you can't just break them. And Deku's like, excuse me? Like, I beat your villain who was about to kill 2 people. Would you rather me just watch them die? And, you know, what's it called? The officer, he backs off a bit, because, you know, what kind of fucking person doesn't back off when you say, would you want me to let them die? So basically he's like, no, but, you know, next time you should have waited for a hero. He's like, I mean, he had the sword to, like, his back ready to stab him through the heart, so next time I'll let him die, I guess, you know. The officer's like, I'm not saying that, you know. Deku's just giving him a hard time, because, you know, this guy tried to give him a hard time. So after that, Deku, he's just like, alright, you know, it's the end of the internships. Deku heads back to school, and they get told about the exams, the final exams, and how they're going to be doing that. Deku, he's like, alright, you know, he gets ready to, like, you know, to cram in some knowledge by studying, and then he hears Momo, Mina, Denki, Kirishima, and, you know, a few other people talking about doing a study group. Deku walks over and he's like, hey, can I join you guys? Because, you know, I don't know much. Because since he wasn't a part of the human world, at least. So Momo was like, of course you can join us, you know. And then, like, Mina says something offhanded, like, Momo, don't you have a big house since, you know, your family's super rich and, you know, stuff like that? Momo's like, yeah, you know, I am, but, you know, it's nothing. So Deku thinks in his head, huh, a rich family. I should probably go there respectfully. So, you know, we'll time skip a little bit. So everyone heads over to Momo's house. And Deku's running a little bit late. So they're like, alright, we'll start. And then right when they say that, they hear a ring on the door, right? So Momo's like, I'll go get it. And then, you know, her mother's like, no, you all are studying. I'll go get it myself. She walks to the door. She opens it and she sees this fat guy with green hair who has a bit of hair on his face, big ass lips, and he's just like, hello there. And then, you know, she's like, can I help you? And then she's like, can I help you? He's like, I am Midoriya. I've come here to do a study group with Mrs. Yayarozu. And then, what's it called? She's like, sweetie, someone's at the door for you. You know, Momo gets up. She's like, alright. She walks over, and then she sees this person that she never seen before. And then he's just like, hello, Momo. And then Momo's like, who the fuck are you? And then Deku's like, oh, you don't recognize me. Makes sense. And, you know, poof. It's Deku, of course, since, you know, King has that fat form. He's like, hey, yeah, I thought I should come respectfully. And that's my respectfulness. Momo's like, but why though? Like, you know, that's what she's thinking, but why though? Deku's like, isn't that like a form of respect to come here looking nice? She's like, you don't have to do that though. And you know, he's like, yeah, alright, I don't get it, but you know, it's fine. And then he's like, should we go do the study group now? You know, she's like, okay. And then he floats in there, she walks in, he's like, hey. And, you know, they all do the studying. And now we're gonna time skip to the test exams, right? So now it's Deku, you know, he's chilling out. He's waiting for what's it called? What was I gonna say? He's waiting for he's waiting for them to do that because they've already been through the exam part. Now they have to go through, you know, the fight. So now he's checking on whose team he's on because they explained, you know, one teacher fights two students, and if they win, then they pass. If they don't win, then they don't pass. So, you know, Deku, he's just standing there. He's waiting for, you know, what's the fucking name? He's waiting for his name to get called. Very professional. He's waiting for his name to get called and to find out who his teammate is. And then he sees on the board that his teammate is Bakugo. And he's like, oh, God. Why do I have to be teamed with him? Jesus Christ. It's fine. You know, that's what he's saying. It's fine. I don't care. So, you know, Deku, then, after that, he gets up after everyone's match, and he's like, you know, he looks at Bakugo, he's like, alright, how about we actually work as a team? And Bakugo scoffs at him immediately. He says, I can handle All Might by myself. You know, he rushes at him. He rushes, like, towards the middle, and Deku face palms a bit. He's like, oh, God, I'm an idiot as a teammate. So, you know, Deku just floats behind him and, like, watches. And then, you know, he like, hears a smash heading their way. So, you know, Deku just goes into an alley real quick. Bakugo sees Deku do that. He's like, what the hell? And Bakugo gets hit with that full smash. And it hurt. So, Bakugo hits a building, you know. Deku's like, ooh, that hurt. Like, that's not good. That don't look good. You know, Bakugo's like, yeah, it doesn't fucking feel good. Deku's like, so you trying to work as a team now, or? And, you know, Bakugo, of course, refuses. After that, you know, after a bit of All Might kicking the shit out of Bakugo and Deku just casually watching, Deku's like, I should help him out. So, you know, he summons his spear. He's like, let's see how this goes. And he goes, fourth configuration, Guardian. Right? So after that, Deku, like, you know, the Guardian rushes at All Might. All Might is, like, locked fist to fist with the Guardian, and they're throwing hands. While they're throwing hands, Deku floats over to Bakugo and is like, hey, you want to head to the thing now? But, you know, basically All Might punches the Guardian back, which Deku did not expect. Deku's like, oh shit, he got more power than I thought. So, you know, he's like, fifth configuration, and then it separates into a bunch of fucking small spears. I forget what it's called. It separates into a bunch of small spears, and it rushes All Might. All Might throws a smash immediately just to send them all away so that, you know, he doesn't get stabbed. After that, Deku is like, alright, we should probably go now before, you know, he kicks our asses. Bakugo's like, I could beat him. And then Deku's like, yeah, sure, okay. So, you know, since Bakugo is refusing to basically get up, he gets one of the smaller spears that are connected, that are, you know, flying all around All Might right now, to pick him up by his, like, shirt. And then just fly him to the exit while Deku flies to the exit himself. All Might sees this, and then, you know, he swings his arms and claps them, like, you know, into a smash that, like, sends all the blades flying in different directions. Deku's like, oh, that won't be good. But he's like, I'm not too worried, at least. So All Might's rushing at Deku, but Deku's bringing all his spears back at this moment, and they're trying to catch up. But Deku realizes that his spears are not about to catch up. At least because All Might's way closer than his spears are right now. So as Deku's preparing to get hit by All Might, a big ass explosion comes from behind him, hitting All Might in his face. Deku looks back, he sees Bakugo, and he's like, thanks, I guess. He's like, now we're even. And then Deku's like, alright. Then, all the spears form into the fourth form, Guardian. And then it starts throwing hands with All Might again. This time, it's bigger. It's like a bigger version, probably around the size of a 4-story building. And it kicks All Might. All Might gets sent back. While that happens, Deku and Bakugo are rushing to the exit. They make it. Deku is like, thanks. He just tells Bakugo, thanks for the help, I guess. Bakugo is like, whatever. So, they walk off their separate ways. And I'm going to give this back to Zether. I don't know if I say that name right. He needs to tell me if I say that name right, because I don't know if I do. But I'm going to give it back to him, alright? So, yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed my part. Check out my channel. Yeah. Bye.
Hey, I'm back, guys. So, as you guys saw, that was Shota. Hope you guys go subscribe to his channel since he makes some pretty cool what-ifs too. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right back into where I had left off. So, we're going to just go ahead and just take a little bit of a quick jump all the way to the day where, the students are all on the bus. They're just having a little bit of fun as, all of them are just playing Truth or Dare. As one of them asks, Deku, truth. As Deku would say truth, and then Mineta would actually say, what's your quirk, Deku? As Deku would then proceed to say, I don't have a quirk. As the class would just be like, what? As he would be like, yeah, I don't have a quirk. As everybody would say, you have to. I mean, that spear. As Deku would say, it's spear Chastiefol. It's from the Divine Forest. As they'd be say what? As Deku would say, oh wait, no, sorry, did I say divine? He means to say Fairy King. Anyways, as the rest of the class would be like, what? You're a fairy? As he would say, yeah, I'm the Fairy King. As they would say, what? Then what are you doing in UA? Like, you should already just be a hero. As Deku would say, well, yeah, but I kind of need my hero license, so that's why I'm going through this course, and I thought it'd be pretty easy and fun, so I'm just coming along with it. As everybody would just be like, that's incredible. As they would arrive, and as soon as they get there, everybody's just like, wow, he's pretty cool, and now I can see why he's so strong. As then Bakugo's like, no wonder. As everybody's just walking, as they're just talking a little bit, as then Mandalay's like, so guys, training camp is pretty far away. As she then says, you guys better get started. As the class would be like, wait, what do you mean? Like, camp's over there, the bus is over here, let's just go ahead and get back in. As Mandalay would then proceed to throw them all off, as Deku would just fly up into the air and land. As he then says, hey, you guys okay? As they're like, yeah, we're fine. As Deku would then say, cool, I'll meet you guys there. As he would then proceed to blitz off, as the class is just like, wait, as Deku just makes it all the way back to camp. In about, let's say, something pretty believable. He makes it there in about 2 minutes. And let's say that it takes the students 3 hours to get there and the teachers 1 hour. So the teachers will then arrive in about 58 minutes. As Deku would have just been sitting there sleeping, as Aizawa would arrive and he would say, hey, what are you? As Deku would say, yo, what's going on? As they would say, where's the rest of the class? As Deku would say, oh yeah, I left that up to them. They can do it on their own. They don't really need my help. They're more than capable enough. As Aizawa would say, you could have helped them a little bit. As Deku would say, nah, they need it. They need the training. As Aizawa would just be like, okay. So we're gonna go ahead and cut on over to Deku just kind of laying there, as Mandalay would have actually begun to cook about 1 hour later, as she started getting everything ready and started getting everything pretty prepared for when the students arrive. She could just put it all on the grill and get it done in about 30 minutes. So the students would all arrive about 1 hour later, and Deku would just be sitting there sleeping, passed out, as Kota would actually walk up to him before the students arrive, as he then says, "Hey, why do you even want to be a hero anyways? You're just gonna get yourself killed." As Deku would say, "Huh?" As Kota would say, "Yeah, why do you want to become a hero? You're just gonna get yourself killed. It's idiotic. You have no reason to try to become a hero." As Deku would then say, yeah, I don't want to become heroes. Kota's just like, "You don't want to become a hero?" As Deku was just like, I'm asleep. As Deku would just proceed to pass out. As Kota's just sitting there like, wow, at least somebody agrees with me. So Kota would actually think that Deku was on his side, but in reality, Deku was just way too tired to care. So everybody would proceed to get there, as they're just like, "Why did you leave us?" As Deku was just like, "I thought you guys would like the training. I mean, you guys got stronger from it, didn't you?" As they would look at each other and be like, "I mean, yeah, but you could have made it easier." As he says, "There you go. That's why I did it." As Mandalay would say, "Hey guys, the food's ready." As Deku would say, "Oh, okay, bet." As he would go over there and everybody would just begin to pig out as they just start eating all the food, having a pretty good time. As there would actually be no nut punch in this version of events, and nothing really too much changes up until the nighttime. One thing that does is when Mineta climbs up the wall, Deku would proceed to knock him down before Kota could even do nothing, and the girls would think that Kota did it, so they'd be like, "Hey, thank you, Kota." As Kota would begin to look down, seeing all the girls, as he's then like, passes out as he falls off, and Deku catches him with a pillow. As he then takes him back to Mandalay, as he asks her, "What's up with this Kota kid?" As she would say, his parents, she would begin to explain everything, as Deku would, kind of understand why Kota's like this. I mean, if his sister died, he doesn't know anything about parents, but if his sister died, he's sure he would feel awful as well. So we're gonna go ahead and cut over to the very next day, since now he has a little bit of an understanding for Kota. So they'd proceed to train for the rest of the day, as Bakugo would then proceed to ask Deku why he doesn't decide to train his body. I mean, without that staff of his, he'd just be weak. As Deku would look at him and tilt his head to the side, as he would then ask Bakugo, "Well, if that's the case, then why don't you train your body instead of your quirk? Without your quirk, you wouldn't be anything either." As Bakugo would be like, he does have a point. As he would proceed to just kind of stay quiet and keep doing his training, as Deku would just fly off, as he then begins to practice with Spear, using different forms of it and trying to just master a couple of moves. Or I mean, not master, he has 2,000 years already to have mastered it, but he's trying to improve it. I guess it's mastered, but he just wants to make it better, I guess you could say. So Deku does the sort of training that King did in the Meliodas power retrieval thing. So we're gonna go ahead and cut on over to the nighttime, when they're all doing their little hide and seek stuff. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And everybody would just proceed to be doing it like normal up until Deku was just sitting there with Kota. He's just sitting there talking to him, as Kota's just explaining everything to him, as Deku's just flying around on his pillow, just being like, "Yeah, I can see why you feel like that, but I mean, you gotta get over it. Your parents, I mean, they were gonna die eventually." As Kota would say, What? Why would you?" As King or Deku would say, "Yeah, don't humans die fast?" As Kota would say, "What do you mean humans?" As Deku would then say, "Well, I've been alive for 2,000 years, and I've seen many people come and go." As Kota would say, "What's your quirk?" As Deku would then proceed to explain it to Kota, as Kota's just like, and that is essentially all that happens up until Muscular would arrive 5 minutes later, as the forest goes ablaze, as Deku's just wondering how the hell this is happening. As Muscular would appear, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, Muscular he's done for. Come on now. He tried to come in and punch Kota, and Deku was having none of it. He would proceed to use Spear first configuration, as well as Disaster. What's it called? Disaster Promotion, as he would then have the scars that he caused on Muscular to be intensified, as Muscular would proceed to die of blood loss, as Deku would have just ran away from there with Kota, taking him to aizawa like usual. Deku would then run around the forest, just kind of saving people until he finds Bakugo, meaning that he did save Ojiro and Tokiyami. He used Spear, he used a sunflower to make Tokiyami calm down. And in terms of that, Deku wouldn't actually know that Bakugo's the prime target, so he would just proceed to leave Bakugo as, then, one of the Ojiro, or Dupli arms would then proceed to say, well, we might need him. I mean, what if we run into more villains? As Deku would say, yeah, right. What if he gets hurt? As Deku would then proceed to look at Bakugo and say, hey, come with us. As Bakugo would be like, okay. As, Bakugo and Deku would just proceed to walk off. As, about 2 minutes later, they would arrive to Uraraka and Tsuyu. As, Deku's just like, Spear, first configuration. As, he has it go attack at Toga. As he actually ends up taking her down before she could even react to anything. As, Deku ties her up. And he would then proceed to walk off. As Uraraka points out that Bakugo isn't even with them. As they would then proceed to see, the magic guy. I forget what that guy's name is. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I stay forgetting his name. I'm pretty sure that his name is Compressed. Yeah, Compressed. They would proceed to, get caught by Compressed, Tokiyami and Bakugo in this version. As, it was essentially just like canon, except in this version, when they run away and, it seems that everything is lost, things change a lot. Since in this version, Deku's not going to let that slide, as he would hop into the portal while Dabi is just jumping in there. As Deku would then say, Spear, 5th configuration, increase! As he would have his spears just run around, just destroying everybody left and right, as they're all just getting taken down and, absolutely demolished. Deku was just sitting there, just doing that, as, they would just be sitting there like, getting stabbed up, as Deku would say, promotion! As the wounds would just open up, as Deku would tell them to stay down. As he would then ask Bakugo if he's fine, as Bakugo would say, yeah, I'm fine. As he would then say, thanks, I guess. As, Deku would just proceed to be like, yeah. As, as this is happening, All For One would actually teleport everybody out of there, just like in the original canon. And so, things would go a tad bit different. As soon as the All For One does that, he would then appear out, as Deku would just be curious as to see who that is. As, All For One would then step out of the portal, as he then says, good job, I have to commend you for your amazing efforts. You managed to take down all of the League of Villains members with no sweat at all. As Deku would say, huh? And what does that have to do with you? As All For One would then point a wind cannon at him, as he shoots a wind propulsor at him, as Deku gets blown back. As he's then like, that was weak. What was that supposed to do? As All For One would say, look behind you. As All For One would have actually not been aiming for Deku. He was aiming for Bakugo. As it hit Bakugo and it injured him pretty critically. As Deku sees that and he's just like, he doesn't know how to feel. He has mixed emotions. As he then looks towards All For One and is kind of angered a little bit. As, he just looks at him and says, why? Why would you attack him and not me? As All For One would then say, simple, to throw you off your game. As Deku would then have his spear just come up to him, as he then says, Spear, 2nd configuration, Guardian. As Guardian would then approach All For One and come in with 4 fists coming at him. As All For One would then move out of the way and increase his arm, as he then obliterates Guardian, as Deku was just astounded by All For One's power. They would proceed to get into a pretty heated battle where All For One is using nothing but long range attacks against Deku, since that is the only thing that's going to help him. So he would use wind attacks to keep Chastiefol away, and the battle would last about 10 minutes, having a lot of heroes show up in the area, as All For One would have used a giant blast to obliterate a huge part of the city. So a lot of people would be watching and a camera crew would arrive, as the Deku and All For One battle would just be streamed. As everybody's watching, as Deku's handling All For One and All For One is holding his own. They're throwing attacks left and right. They're dodging, they're weaving. They're shooting strong attacks at each other. As Deku decides that enough is enough, as he would then say, I'm done playing with you. True, Spear, Chastiefol. As Chastiefol would just turn into a huge version of Spear, as he would then say, 1st configuration, as a giant Spear would just approach All For One, as it just hits him and the impact would create a huge explosion, as there's a giant impact that would send the helicopter just tumbling back, as Deku would then have Spear go over there to try to, balance them out so that they don't crash into a building, as Deku would then be barely standing, as that took a lot out of him, as he would then have Spear come back to him, as he's just breathing heavily that took a lot out of me, as Deku would have ended up taking out All For one of the greatest threats that this world has ever known. So Deku would just kind of pass out after that, as he would then be recovered by a couple of heroes that were standing by, as Deku would actually at this point be known as that kid who was able to take down the greatest villain of all time, All For One. I mean, it's incredible what this kid was able to do. Nobody else has ever done something like this. So we're gonna go ahead and cut back to a certain break. Now Deku would just be chilling there, as Mount Lady would bust through the door saying, "Hey kid, are you okay?" As Deku would be like, "Oh, hey," as he would then proceed to act fine, as Mount Lady's just like, "Yeah kid, I heard about what happened. It sucks. I just wanted to come check if you were okay, I mean, you were one of my internships, so I gotta care about you a little bit." As Deku would say, "You like me?" She would say, "Not really." As Deku would just proceed to pass out of sadness. And we're just gonna go ahead and cut over to the provisional hero license exam. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I hate this arc. We're skipping it. I know a lot of you guys may be wondering, "Oh, but what happens?" But I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. Everybody passes, and Deku makes sure of it. This poses no complications towards Deku and changes nothing story-wise. So we're going to go ahead and hop on over to the overhaul arc, where things are actually going to start changing a little bit. In this version, Deku's actually going to have Mirio appear in the class, as Deku's just sitting there, listening up to Aizawa, as he's saying that, today they're going to have the top 3 come in, the big 3. As Deku hears this, and Mirio walks in doing his normal thing, as Deku would actually kind of like his outgoing personality. As Mirio would ask to fight all of them, as they would all report to the gym, as he begins to pretty much body everybody except for Deku. As when he gets to Deku would say, Spear, 5th configuration, as he would have all of his spears just surround him in a kunai position, so if Mirio tried to get close, he would get himself cut, as Mirio would just realize that he cannot damage Deku, but Deku can't damage him, so they would pretty much be at a sort of halt. Neither one is giving up their ground, as Deku and Mirio just proceed to smile as they think that, what? No more of that. As Mirio says, what? I'll stop using my quirk if you stop using yours. As Deku would then say, sure. As Deku would then say, Fairy King dance. As he would then get into a sort of fighting combat position. As he then says, ah! And goes up to punch Mirio. As Mirio's like, dude, seriously. Please, stop messing with me. As Deku would begin to punch Mirio in the face, as Mirio's just like, is this kid for real? As he would then grab Deku by his body, as he would pick him up and say, dude, you need to get stronger. As he's laughing, having his positive go-lucky energy. As Deku just kind of is happy. He kind of likes Mirio. So when Mirio actually suggests going to Sir Night-Eye, Deku would actually proceed to accept. He actually kind of liked Mirio's personality and just the way he carries himself. He seems like a pretty genuine and sweet and forward guy, So Deku would proceed to, no homo though, because I did say sweet. No homo. So, I didn't want y'all to catch me lacking. So we're gonna go ahead and just skip over to when Deku is there with Mirio, as Deku would just be sitting there being like, hey, so how do I get started? Are you just gonna sign my thing? As Sir Night-Eye would say, well, sure, since in this version Mirio got one for all. There's no reason for Sir Night-Eye to be a dickhead. I mean, he is a normal amount of dickhead, but not as much as he was to Deku, because, he was only that mean to him because he wanted Mirio to be the successor, that prick. But anyways, that being said, he would then tell Deku that he has to get that stamp from him, as he holds it up, and Deku would use his spirit abilities to command the stamp mark to just float on over to Deku as he catches it and says, all done. As Night-Eye would say, I thought you could only control the spear. As Deku would say, no, I can control a lot of things. As he would then have a lot of things in Night-Eye's room just start floating up. As he would say, see? As he then begins to command them to fly around Night-Eye, as it hits him in the head one time, as Night-Eye gets sent flying. As Deku would then put the mug right back as it broke on Night-Eye's face, and he says, oh, yeah, sorry about that. As Night says, that was a limited edition All Might cup. As Deku would say, oh, well, I'm extra sorry about that. As he would say, Mirio, just take this kid out. Get out of here. As Deku would just be like, sorry about that. As, Deku would proceed to walk out, and we're just gonna go ahead and skip over to Mirio and Deku just walking out. And actually, they're having a pretty calm day. Everything is normal up until Deku's just floating around. As he then decides that, you know what, he's gonna walk for a little change of pace. As Deku's just sitting there walking, as the little girl just runs out of the alleyway. As Deku would grab her, and as soon as he holds her, he would just sense the fear, the negative emotions that Aries feeling, the terror. As he can sense her thoughts and just hears everything that she's thinking about all the things that Overhaul has done to her. And as soon as Deku hears that, he does not play any games. He is angered that anybody would do that to a child. As Deku would then say, Spear. I'm pretty sure it is let's just say petrification. I'm not sure. I kind of forgot what it's called. Petrification! As he would then proceed to petrify Overhaul. As before Overhaul could even release any negative intent, Deku would have petrified Overhaul right where he stands. As Overhaul would have just been sitting there like a duck, not being able to do anything at all. As, Deku would then proceed to say, serves you right, everything you did to this girl. And, in this version of events, Deku's actually going to tell Overhaul about everything, as Mirio would say that he has to tell him, as Deku would say this scum doesn't deserve to live. As his spear would shatter Overhaul, as Overhaul would just die right there, as Deku would have actually killed him right in front of Eri, as Eri is just like, as Deku would then look at her with a pure smile. No anger, no falseness, nothing. It would just be a pure happy smile, as Deku would say, he can't hurt you anymore. And I'm gonna make sure of it. I'm gonna make sure that you get all those years back that you had that were wasted because of this scumbag. As Eri would smile for the very first time, as Deku would see that it was a very forced one, but Deku would accept it nonetheless. Since in this version, Deku's actually gonna be the one who stays by Eri's side. He's gonna be the one who sticks by Eri and tries to help her through everything that she goes through. So Mirio is going to keep his quirk, and this means that there's going to be no, Overhaul arc. It all would have ended as quick as it started. So we're going to go ahead and skip over to the concert, where everybody's having a pretty good time, and everything essentially goes over to canon, except Deku is using his quirk to, fly and use his kunais, as well as, Guardian to, just lull the crowd, just make them all feel pretty cool about themselves, as Guardian is doing a sort of performance in the background, just being a giant teddy bear for Eri to mess around with. As Deku would then decide that Aries, her seat isn't that comfortable, as Deku would then proceed to just start flying, as he would then pull his spear and turn it into a pillow, as he would then say, hey Eri, sit down on this, as he gives her the best view of all time. He would have Eri in the air, as Eri's just watching in amazement, as Gentle Criminal would be like, finally, I get to do my final act. As Deku would look towards Gentle and sense what he could read his mind and see what Gentle wants to do. As Deku would go over to Eri and hold her. As he then looks at her, as he smiles, as he then says, Spear, fifth configuration, and in a quiet tone, as he then has it just go to attack at Gentle, as it wipes him out immediately. As Gentle would have been taken out, as well as La Brava. As Deku would then look at Eri and say, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. As Deku would put the pillow under her and she would just proceed to keep watching the show. As Deku would say, I wasn't about to let that scumbag ruin everything for you. As, Eri would just enjoy everything. And they would have a pretty amazing day. So, Deku would actually decide that, maybe he can do something himself for Eri. As Deku would proceed to ask Principal Nezu if it would be fine if he could take Eri to the Fairy King Forest, show her around there, and maybe that can, bring back her childhood, all those days that she had lost. Maybe the fairies could help bring her mood up with their dances and their culture. As Principal Nezu would just look at Deku, and knowing how powerful and, trustworthy Deku is, he would decide that, it's fine. As long as Deku brings her back, soon. As Deku would say, oh yeah, I'll bring her back in a week. As Nezu would say, what, a week? As Deku just says, ta-ta. And Ta-ta. As Deku would say bye, as he would then get Eri and hold her as he then flies off. It would take them about 3 days to arrive at the Fairy King's forest. As Deku would arrive there and have Eri sit down, and she would say, "That was so much fun flying in the air." As Deku would say, "Well, I hope it was." As Deku was just sitting there smiling. As when he arrives, he would see that the Fairy King's forest, it was nothing like he had left it. Everything was different. The forest was on fire, and the fairies were nowhere to be seen. As Deku would then grab Eri and put her down somewhere safe, as he tells her not to make a noise and just to stay quiet. He'll come back to her. Something bad's going on. As Eri would say, okay. As Deku would proceed to walk around as he then looks towards the sacred water. As he can then see that it's gone. As Hellbrum would then fly up to Deku as he would then say, "Hey, glad you're back." As Deku would look at him and say, "Hellbrum, where's Elaine? Where's the rest of the fairies?" As Hellbrum would say, "Well, about that, you didn't seem to be doing your job, so I figured I'd do it for you." As Deku would say, I'm serious, Hellbrum. I don't have time for any games." As Hellbrum would then shoot an attack at Deku, proving that he's not playing anything. He's being dead serious right now, and he's going to try to kill Deku. As Deku would read the situation and realize what's going on, he would then get into a fight with Hellbrum as he would say, "Hellbrum, don't do this! You're my best friend, please." As Hellbrum would just say, "If you're not doing your job right, and you think that leaving this forest is the right thing, then it was a good thing that you left." As Deku would just be pretty worried, thinking about his sister, as he's just confused about that this entire time. So Deku's just having a hard time battling against Hellbrum. He's worried about Elaine, he's worried about the fairies, he's worried about Eri, and he's just not able to fight at his full capacity. As he realizes that Hellbrum must have drank the water. As he would then say, "How did you drink the water? Elaine was guarding it." As Hellbrum would smile and Deku would have it click in his head. He would say, "No, Hellbrum, please, tell me you didn't kill her." As Hellbrum would just stay silent, and then a few seconds later would begin to laugh as he said, "Yeah, I killed her. I killed your snotty-nosed sister." As Deku would then be like, just silence. As Deku was just sitting there still, flying in the air. As Hellbrum then smiles and says, "Well, I guess if you're gonna accept your defeat, then there's nothing I can do for you." As Deku would then look at him and say, "Elaine, you killed her." As Hellbrum would then shoot an attack towards Deku, the strongest that he has, as Deku would just repel it instantly. As Hellbrum would then be like, "What's going on?" As Deku's wings would begin to sprout. Deku's wings would have came out finally, as he would now officially be the true Fairy King. As Deku would proceed to unleash hell upon Hellbrum, as he would then attack him with his abilities. As Deku would proceed to attack Hellbrum, as his attacks are definitely working, and if he didn't have his immortality, Hellbrum would have been dead by now, but he has the immortality factor. As Deku would, have a long battle with Hellbrum. Hellbrum can't really put anything up, but the battle would continue for another minute, as Deku was just thinking of making him pay, not really thinking of the smartest choice of action here. As Deku would then decide that if he can't kill him, then he'll just have to stop him for now. As he would then say, "Petrification!" As he would then petrify Hellbrum, as Hellbrum is just turned to stone. As Deku would then look at him and be like, "That's for everybody that you must have killed." As a lot of fairies would have actually lost their lives. Any of the fairies that would have stood up against Hellbrum and tried to rebel would have, been killed. And the rest of them would have just been in hiding, in the Fairy King's forest, trying not to be found. Or just kind of like keeping a low profile, not really trying to get on Hellbrum's bad side. It had been a week since his master plan to take over the Fairy King forest that he was actually planning for a while now. And thus, Deku just didn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do. He has nothing. The sacred water's gone. He doesn't know where the fairies are, and worst of all, he doesn't know how he's gonna fix this. How is he gonna fix this? As Deku just proceeds to think about this, as Deku's just kind of having a rage moment, as Deku would then have it click in his head to say, wait, that kid, Shinso, maybe he can control him. And maybe that way I can get the water back. It's a long shot, but it just might work. As Deku would then fly over to Eri as fast as possible, and he would then proceed to fly back to UA in 3 hours. As he would arrive at UA, as Nezu would ask what's going on, why is he back so soon, as Deku would say that he has no time to explain, the Fairy King force is in danger, and he needs to leave Eri off here. He'll bring her some other day, but right now is not the time. As he would then ask Principal Nezu where he can find that Shinso kid. As Nezu would tell him where he could find him and ask why, as Deku would say that he doesn't have any time to explain at the moment. As he would fly towards Shinso and tell him everything, Shinso would then realize that Deku's a fairy, that he needs his help, and regardless of how he feels about him losing to Deku, he understands the severity of the situation, and he can be a true hero by helping Deku do this. So Deku would proceed to have Shinso be convinced, as Shinso would then agree to try to help Deku, as Deku would fly back with Shinso, taking about 3 hours and 10 minutes, since Shinso was a little heavier, and Deku would proceed to, try to have Shinso, catch Hellbrum under his mind control, as Deku would then undo the petrification, as Shinso just looks at Hellbrum as he says, looks like that Fairy King won. As Hellbrum would say, how dare you, you insolent, as he would be under the control of Shinso. As Shinso would smile and say, so what do you need me to do? As Deku would say, his blood has the sacred water of the fairy forest. At the fairy forest, if that fountain is gone, this forest will be gone. As Shinso would understand, and Deku would tell him that he needs to keep him just standing there, as Deku would proceed to slash at Hellbrum, having every bit of his blood just drop into the fairy fountain, or the fountain of youth, I guess. As Deku would then proceed to have Hellbrum just shoot all of his blood out, as the immortality would have just been drained out of him, as Deku would proceed to turn him into stone and shatter it, as Hellbrum would die right there. This is when Deku would proceed to realize the severity of what he did. It led to Elaine's death, as well as some of his fairy, residents, as Deku would decide that, he needs to become a true Fairy King and really lead his fairies. I mean, he can't just leave them. I mean, it may have been fun while it lasted, but he can't do it again. As Deku would proceed to thank Shinso and take Shinso back, as he would then proceed to tell Nezu that he can't be here anymore. As he would then explain to Nezu what had happened, and Nezu would understand, telling him that he gets it, and he would then ask Deku if he wants a hero license. That way, if he ever needs to use his powers outside of the forest, he can. As Deku would accept and get his hero license, as he would return to the fairy forest, as he would proceed to put things back together to the way they were, as he would help some of the fairies recover, the fairy forest would begin to sprout again, as in no time, the fairy forest would begin to came back. Everything would come back to normal in about 1 year's time, as 1 year would have passed and Eri would have grown a bit. Deku would have never forgotten about her and actually ended up keeping his promise to go back and see her. As Deku would fly over there, and on this particular day, Mount Lady would actually just be sitting there watching and would have actually chosen to become a teacher at UA. As Deku would arrive and say, hey, is Eri here? As Mount Lady would look at Deku as she would say, hey, who are you? As Deku would look at her and remember Mount Lady, as he just looks at her and the hard eyes just appears. He then flies over to her and says, do you want to go out with me? As do you want to marry me, actually? As she would say, Deku? As Deku would say, oh yeah, it's me. Why? As he would say, you couldn't tell it was me? As she would say, you look so much different now. As Deku would have had that glow up that King had as well. So you already know my boy Deku looking fresh with his suit and everything. Whoo! He would be looking good. No homo, but he would be looking good. So Deku would proceed to look at her as he then says, yeah, do you want to become my queen? She would then agree in an instant. I mean, she trying to hop on that man's, you feel me? She's trying to hop on that meat. So she would proceed to agree to become his queen. As Deku would find Eri and then proceed to ask Principal Nezu if he can finally fulfill that promise to Eri that he made such a long time ago. Or to him, it would be like a day ago. As he would tell her that, yeah, it's fine. As Deku would proceed to fly over to Eri. As he finds her and asks her if she wants to visit the fairy forest this time. As she would say, yeah, of course. As Deku would fly her over there. And they would proceed to have an amazing day. A couple years would pass after this time. and Deku and Mount Lady would have actually given birth to a child. This kid would be named Lancelot. I know that is not exactly the name that, King or Deanne's child is, or if they even have one. I'm pretty sure that's Bon and Elaine's, but they decided to name him Lancelot, and he would actually proceed to learn about the Hero Society, since Mount Lady would actually explain it to him, and Deku would talk about how he once actually went to UA and attended it. So once he grows up a bit, he would actually decide that maybe it's his time to leave the fairy forest and go seek his own self, since he is half human, so he is going to age faster than the fairies. At least he'll die at about 500 years. So he would decide that, he's going to go down his own path and become the hero that his father never could. So this is where we're going to be ending this story. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys liked the ending. I know it was a little bit of a different series than what I usually do, but I hope you guys enjoyed it nonetheless. That being said, make sure to leave a like down below. Let me know what you thought about the story. And it has been your boy Zether out. Thank you guys for 4K. Bye.